Welcome to Northwoods Kindred. I'm your Gothi, Bodvarr, and on this channel we discuss all things Ostrich Kindred related. And today we're going to talk about brewing mead, because nothing's more Ostrich Kindred than brewing mead. We just got this kit in the mail from Jigger N Dash, and so they're a little company that specializes in kind of like the home brewer, home mixologist, first timer, just trying to get into the game. And so they graciously sent us this kit for free, and we're gonna brew some mead with it. And let me show you what comes in the box. The last thing I opened with this knife was a sheep, but when we can't sacrifice livestock, we prefer mead. Liquid gold. Now we've gone ahead and we listed this down in the description so you can follow it to an affiliate link on Amazon to pick up a kit for yourself. So as you probably know, we've been brewing mead for quite a long time here, but we're going to try for the most part to go through the kit and brew according to their instructions, because those instructions are what new brewers are going to get for the very first time. So I'm going to try and just do what they do when it makes sense, and if not, maybe I'll give you a little trick or two when it doesn't. So before we get started, let's go through the kit and see what comes in it. So we have this packet, and it's got yeast and yeast nutrient and sterilizer inside of it, fermentation lock, and some accessories. We have a racking cane and a racking hose. We have a funnel. We have our carboy. Kind of cool. It's got a little Viking with a horn with a shield with a bee on it. Can't forget instructions. What we will need: 40 ounces of honey. We recommend 100% natural clover honey, Tupelo honey, or meadow foam honey. I don't know what that is, but there's a lot of really cool honeys. So what we have some honey from the Bitterroot Mountains of Montana. Special delivery from a kinsman. So we're going to siphon off about 40 ounces of that, and that's what we're going to use. And a gallon of spring water. See, we don't use spring water because we're not novice here. We use our well water. We have brewed successfully with our well water for well over 10 years, and it has always worked out really good for us. So we're not going to go with the spring water, but if you live in the city or you're using city water or whatever, you probably want to go buy some spring water or some filtered water or whatever from the grocery store. Day one, before getting started, we recommend practicing with the siphoning technique that you will be using to bottle your mead. We don't need to practice, we got that part down. Next, step one, find a tub or a sink large enough to fit the carboy and the funnel into. Well, let's do it. Fill the tub with a gallon of water and mix in half of the sanitizer packet. The other half will be reserved for the bottles of the mead that will eventually be transferred into once it is made. Now we have approximately 1 gallon of water in the sink, plus or minus, and we're going to add about half of the sterilization packet as listed in the instructions. There's about half. So I'm just mixing everything around and sterilizing it really good, but we're going to transfer this sterilization to the bottle. This is your rocking cane. Hose goes on the end, and this will filter out sediment when we get to that stage. This is the stop that fits on your racking cane, and this is used to stop the flow of fluid once it gets going. When racking from one container to another, you always want the container that's the receptacle to be lower than the container that has the reservoir. Now what I'm doing here is just shaking around this sanitizer. There is a difference between sterilization and sanitation. You can Google that if you want to know the difference. But basically what it does is it kills any other living pathogens that may have an effect on your brew. One thing you don't have to concern yourself with is that you cannot brew poison. Unless you put something poisonous inside of it, nothing poisonous is going to come out of it, because water, yeast, and sugar do not create poison in any realm so far that we've crossed into. So this sanitizer is a no rinse sanitizer. So essentially you just, when you're done, you just lay it out on the counter and let it all dry. Sometimes, if you've been brewing for a while, you notice that your hoses get dirty and cloudy. One good way to clean out and dry out a hose is to spin it. And then all the excess water comes out of the inside. So we're going to be using a honey straight out of the Bitterroot Mountains in Montana. We only need about 40 ounces of it. You can also go buy honey like this at your local grocery store or Walmart or something. It says pure honey, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like a honey flavored sugary syrup. I wouldn't necessarily trust it. The best bet, the best thing you can do is get honey from a local source or from a little street vendor or at a farmer's market or someplace where you know it's nice and pure. That will always make a higher quality mead than whatever Walmart is selling. We'll link to a couple down in the description below. We'll link to a couple of honeys on Amazon that we've actually used and found to be really, really nice. Some of our favorite flavors and brands. So this, according to the instructions, is going to take about 5 cups of honey, which is about 1 1/4 quarts. So if you've ever tried to pour cold honey through a small hole, you'll realize just how time consuming that is. I have a better method. Check this one out. I'm going to dissolve my honey into a small amount of warm water. Not boiling, you don't want to pasteurize it, but you want to dissolve it into warm water because it's a lot easier to pour warm water into that carboy than cold honey, believe me. Now that I have this honey, all 5 cups dissolved into this minute amount of warm water, as long as you keep the volume, the total volume less than 1 gallon, then you'll have enough room to put it into the carboy. But if you get too crazy with it, then you won't have enough room. We're going to pour it into this pitcher in the sink. Since we're already working on our brew, we also don't want to use an unsterilized container at all at any point here. We'll sanitize this container, we'll let it dry, and then we'll transfer our brew. I know this doesn't look that spectacular, but if you ever see anybody try to pour cold honey through one of these things, this is genius. And now we'll use warm tap water and fill it up to whatever level we think is about 1 gallon. But if you live in the city and you're using city tap water, don't do it. We have really good well water and we've brewed with this water for over 10 years. So if you're in the city, go buy good, clean, purified water from the store to finish this off. So assuming that you have wherever your water source comes from, I'm assuming it's good, clean water, you don't have to heat it at this point. You can put it in cold because it's going to mix with this water just fine. We only heated that first part to help in the process of dissolving that honey. It's important when you fill the gallon that you leave enough airspace. For one, you have to have the room for the carbon dioxide to leave the brew. It has to have some place to go or else it will just stay inside there and make it sour. But for 2, this could fizz up and foam up. In most cases it does, and it will flow over. So it's also not a bad idea to take this and put it inside of a cookie sheet or a pan just in case it decides to foam over and get really hot and make a giant mess. So the next step is to use a separate sanitized container to rehydrate your yeast and yeast nutrient packet 1 before you add it to the mix. So to rehydrate these packets, throw them in the container and then I can swirl it. But if you're using a mason jar or something, you're also going to want to sanitize a spoon so you have a way to stir everything up. Now I just put a wet paper towel over the mouth of the container. What that's going to do is it's going to allow any gases to escape, but it won't allow anything in, so no wild strains of yeast or anything else can get caught up into my must as I rehydrate my yeast, so I won't be adding any contaminants into my brew when I pitch the yeast. So it's really cool to watch the rehydration process, and you'll see those little yeast cells, they'll hydrate and they'll kind of sink to all the way to the bottom, and then they'll sit there for a little while, and then some other action is taking place and they'll float back to the top. So this constant cycle of sinking to the bottom and floating to the top, there's like it's almost like it's stirring itself, and eventually that goes away and everything dies and it just sinks to the bottom. But it's a really cool process to watch. Yeah. So it's not in the instructions, but at Northwoods Kindred, we always bless our mead. We're essentially giving it life, and we're asking for the blessings of the gods for it to grow up and be fruitful and do what it's supposed to do. Odin, All-Father, giver of life, we ask you to bless this mead, to give it life with strength and vitality, to aid the folk in our connection to the gods. Hail Odin. Don't worry, that's not it. We got more steps. I'll see you in just a minute. So now the instructions say at 24 hours, pick it up, remove the fermentation lock, put our finger over the hole in the cork, and swirl. It's gonna foam up, and then we're gonna do it again. Now this is supposed to release off gases that give it a little bit of a tarnished flavor. I've never done this to my meads before, but I'm going to follow their instructions to the T. Now with that done, that's the end of day 2. We'll see you at day 7. So we're at day 8. We're supposed to do this at day 7, but life gets in the way. So we're going to remove our fermentation lock, and we're just going to follow the instructions. The instructions say take your yeast nutrient packet number 3 and add that to our brew. Supposed to give it a little swirl, and it could foam up a little, what they said, and it looks like it's doing that. And then it says to add just the cork. We're going to give this a little bit of a shake to let off any off gases and to sort of incentivize the fermentation process. And then we're supposed to do this every couple of days for the first 2 weeks. Now we're just supposed to let it rest. And then every couple of days come in and give it a little swirl. So we're just going to put it back in the corner and let it rest. Once again, this is the Jigger N Dash mead making kit. Welcome back. It's been about a month since we brewed this brew. It's ready now, and we're going to bottle it tonight. Now I've already gone through the process of sanitizing these bottles with the provided sanitizer. I also have a little bit of sanitizer in this water to keep our corks wet. Now they suggest that you use Grosh bottles with flip tops. Do whatever you got. I happen to have a corker, so we're going to go that route. Now the next step I'm going to use their method, and we're going to rack this or siphon it from this carboy into those bottles. They had a particular method that's in the instructions. I'm going to show you how they did it, and we'll see if it works. Keep in mind that everything is sanitized. So this red cap is to keep it off the bottom of the carboy to ensure that it doesn't pull in a lot of sediment with it. We're going to put that here, and then according to their instructions, we're going to fill this hose with water and use the water to start the siphoning process. I took this hose to the sink and filled it up with water, and if their method is correct, when this water flows, it should start the siphoning process so that we don't have to put it in our mouth and make it dirty. And then once mead starts to flow, I'll clamp it off again and we'll start filling our bottles. And there we go. What we ended up with was 4 bottles. There's a little sludge in here, but nobody wants that. That's the dwarf's cut. And we had a little bit of extra that we can drink now. And I'll tell you, it's really good, but it's on the sweet side. I personally prefer something a little bit more on the dry side. And in order to combat that, all you'd have to do is just leave it a little bit longer than a month. Generally, I leave mine in the carboy fermenting for the better part of a year, and then I back sweeten it a little bit to get it back up to the sweetness that I like. This one is only a month old. It's a very juvenile mead, but it'd be perfect for a Kindred gathering. 4 bottles will get you through just about any ritual, and you should be in a really good place. We're just going to cork these really good and save them for our next Kindred gathering. So overall, my impression is this is a really good kit for what it is. If you're just trying to get started into brewing mead or make your first batch or just have the ability to knock some together in a short period of time for a Kindred gathering or some sort of an event, this is going to suit you very, very well. It comes with instructions, it comes with all the chemicals that you need and all the equipment that you need, minus the honey itself, the water, and the bottles, whichever type of bottles that you choose to use. Other than that, everything you need comes in the kit. It's a fair price. It's available on Amazon. We'll put a link in the description below. There are other kits on there. I can't vouch for them, but I can say that the deciding factor on how good the quality is going to be about the process of sanitation that you use, making sure that everything is clean and sterile, and the chemical choice that you use. They chose a good yeast and a good yeast nutrient, and that comes off in the final flavor of the mead. If you like it sweet, like the meads that you buy at the store or at the meadery, then you're really gonna love this kit. I hope that it serves you well, and I look forward to seeing what you do with Jigger N Dash Mead Brewing Kit. Go to Iggy.